Wasting money on cures. Forgot how to fix myself. They say that time is free. Then why is it so precious? Oh, I'll save memories in my head, like Polaroids on walls. They remind you to look ahead. Time is running out. Time is running out. Lately I've lost my track. I've sailed the deepest seas, hoping to find something to bring back better times. Oh, I'll save memories in my head, like Polaroids on walls. They remind you to look ahead. But time is running out. 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 Time is running. Time is running out. But time is running out. What if my best days are over? They can't be over. They can't be over now. Time is running out. What if my best days are over? They can't be over now. Time is running out. Time is running out. Time is running out.
Afternoon, everyone. It's Jim here at GTD. Welcome to the third in our series of new live streams to help students, learners get ready for the next edition of BTEC National Business Unit 2, developing a marketing campaign. In the first two sessions, we've looked at how to use the research pack that you get to see in Part A. That's Assessment Focus 3. We've also looked at marketing aims and objectives, Assessment Focus 2. And this session completes Activity 1. And we're going to look at how to use the Justification, Assessment Focus 4. And really, this is all about applying the research pack to the business and to your upcoming marketing mix and marketing campaigns. It's known as the Justification. It's the last part of Activity 1. Now, in subsequent live streams, I've got one coming up on Friday. On my way tomorrow, Friday, we're going to be looking at the biggest, the 20 marker, how to write the marketing mix in Activity 2. And then we're going to put it all together with the last session where we'll look at how to structure the overall 2 documents and also how to put together your campaign budgets and timelines. But for today, we're moving on to Activity Focus 4, the Justification. As always, these sessions are recorded, so if you're watching on catch-up, I think we've had a couple of thousand people watch yesterday's sessions already. You're welcome to. Welcome if you're joining me live. Please do use the live chat as we go to ask any questions as we go, and also to have a go at maybe suggesting some answers in this part of the live stream. We're going to have a think about what is meant by AF4, what's the examiner looking for. We're going to revise the 3 most popular models that students use in their Activity 1 report, and then also we're going to apply it and show you how one way of applying this to our Shine Beauty case study. There should be a link in the live chat now. If you've not already downloaded the Shine Beauty case study, which we're using for all these live streams. Excellent. Okay. So a quick reminder, there are 70 marks on offer in Unit 2. The average mark is just over 30. So just over the pass threshold. Our aim with these live streams is to encourage and help as many students as possible get up to the merit and distinction levels. If we can get into the middle of mark band 3 for each assessment focus, we'll easily get beyond merit. We'll get to 49.5 if we did that, almost up to distinction level. So there are lots of marks going that a lot of students miss out on, often through maybe weak exam technique. So that's really the purpose of these sessions. Now, on the screen there, I've just summarized the 8 assessment foci, and justification is our session today. 10 marks going for this. Now, the next session we're doing on the marketing mix on Friday is the big one, isn't it? 20 marks going for that. Too many students don't leave enough time to do that properly. So a key point about today is that the justification should be done as efficiently and quickly as possible. Don't spend forever writing about the justification and your models, because there's only 10 marks going. Twice as many marks going for diving into the detail of the marketing mix. That's a key theme in today. Just looking at the mark scheme, the examiner tells the examiner or the examiners what they are looking for as they mark your 2 reports. And for this assessment focus, sure, that should say AF4, justification, 9 to 10 marks. We're looking for a variety of analytical tools. Well, actually, a variety means 2. And applying it, relating it to the research, using the analytical tools to apply the research and apply it to our case study and our marketing campaign. So in summary, what do we mean? This means we use 2 analytical tools. You can use as many as you wish, but you need to use more than 1 because it says analytical tools. That means 2. Don't use 3, don't use 4. It's entirely up to you which analytical tools you use. The vast majority of students use SWOT and PESTLE. An increasing number of students are using product lifecycle instead of PESTLE. And I'll come on to why I think that might be a good idea, but you don't have to if you don't want to. The most important thing is whatever you do in applying your models to the case study, you use the research and you are selective in justifying the relevance of that research and developing your points. It's all about selectivity rather than just spending page after page writing generic points and too many points. Aaron's just reminded me, remember to do the 7 Ps, not the 4 Ps. That is a good point for next Friday. It is really important to do the 7 Ps. We'll leave that fun until we get onto AF5, the marketing mix. Right, so what I thought we'd do in this session, which will take about another 20 minutes or so, is just apply the 3 most popular models to our Shine Beauty case study, but also as we go, a little bit of revision. So a nice bit of revision on each of these analytical models. And we start with SWOT analysis, which I think almost every student will use in their activity 1. So don't forget strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats. That's what the SWOT stands for. The most important thing to remember is that strengths and weaknesses are internal to the business. These are the things, the features of the business that are within its control. Yeah. Strengths, things that it does better than the competition, gives it an advantage. Weakness, things it's not as good as or not as well positioned as the competition. But the important point about strengths and weaknesses, they are internal to the business. The most important point from that is you won't find out what those are until you get into part B, which is the actual exam. There'll be nothing in the research pack that will tell you enough about the business to help you identify what its strengths and weaknesses are. Opportunities and threats all day long. That's what you'll find in the research pack, because these are external to the business. These are factors, influences that the business needs to respond to. And depending on how they respond to those factors, that could be an opportunity. It could be a threat. It's really up to you to decide which it is. So in terms of where do you get your information from for your SWOT analysis, strengths and weaknesses, part B. Be ready to use part B to inform your SWOT analysis. Opportunities and threats, you can do your thinking ahead of time, part A. So your research pack will be a great source of opportunities and threats. Now, I think the key thing with SWOT analysis is to be careful about how you do it and to be as selective as possible. What I mean by this is don't just write bullet point after bullet point of lots and lots of different strengths, lots of different weaknesses, lots of opportunities, lots of threats. That's just a shopping list of points, but that's not going to get you far enough up the mark scheme. You need to develop your chosen points carefully and fully. And I've just put in brackets there, be careful if you use a table. I'm not sure I would use a table. In fact, I wouldn't, because I think the danger with a table is you end up writing in bullet points rather than in fully developed sentences. So you can use a table. There's nothing in the mark scheme that says you can't, but I just feel that it's probably easier to develop your point fully, let's say a threat or an opportunity or whatever, by using proper paragraphs. Just have a feeling. Let's say, it's not to say you can't use a table, but be careful. The most important thing, though, is to be really specific. To pick a point, be selective, but to be specific to the case study. Don't just write generic strengths such as the business is well known. Well, why is it well known? Why is that a strength? Explain that. The business has lots of customers. Okay. Well, what is it about your customer base that might be a strength of the business? So apply it to the case study. Really important. And lastly, don't forget that you need to justify the relevance of, let's say, an opportunity or a threat or a weakness. So how does that impact the aims and objectives that you've identified? How does that impact the campaign and the marketing mix? So link it all the time with these assessment foci. We need to keep coming back to aims and objectives and your chosen marketing mix and marketing campaign. So let's have a look at an example, shall we? So I've just done a couple here, and I think this is how I would present it. So for Shine Beauty, there are lots and lots of different strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. In fact, I was just having a debate with Aaron in the live chat just before the live stream started, and he quite rightly picked out the fact that Dr. Shine is really well known as a celebrity beautician, qualified doctor, and therefore that is a strength. And why? Well, because it's likely that her presence at the salon events, if you choose that option, is likely to draw people to the events and therefore more likely to generate leads and potential customers. And so that would be a really good strength to develop, because it's drawing on the information given to you in part B, and it then explains how that then supports the achievement objectives for the salon events if you chose that option. So I think that's a really good example of just be selective, pick a strength and develop it fully. Don't give the examiner 5 or 6 bullet points of different strengths. So here's one. I've just developed it, and I would, to be honest with you, I would just pick one strength. I would start by saying SWOT analysis. The most important findings are as follows, and I would say the main strength or the key strength. I'll come back to your question in a minute, Aaron. So let's just go through this example. So I would say key strength. In other words, I've thought about all the different strengths, but I've identified this one as being particularly important. Okay, Mrs. Examiner, Mr. Examiner, let me explain to you why that is. I've gone for the fact that we're told in part B they have a loyal customer base. Well, why is that important? Well, I think that will help getting people to attend the events and also help spread the word. So what I wanted to do was explain how and why that's the case, but also make reference to the research, linking back to the research. So I just said Shine Beauty has a loyal existing customer base, a high level of repeat business. What's the evidence for that? Well, this is evidenced by, so link to the research. An average of 5 visits per year. It's quite a lot, isn't it? That's a regular customer base from existing customers. And that strength helps achieve the aim of reaching more customers and building a customer base. Why? Because they are more likely to use word of mouth recommendations and referrals. If they hear there's a salon event going on, well, they might invite all the friends, which in turn helps hopefully achieve the objective we had of increasing sales per attendee at the salon events. Why is that important? Well, also the primary research, isn't it? One of those survey questions said that reputation and customer reviews were the 2 most important factors that determine whether a customer goes to a salon. So I love that phrase. This is evidenced by, or the primary research supports this strength, because we're then linking the strength to the research, happy days, and also we're linking it to the fact that we've chosen the option to run salon events. And I think that would do it. That's all I'd write for my strength, because what I then want to be is selective and maybe pick a weakness, an opportunity and a threat. I've had a go at going with a threat. So there are quite a few threats in the case study. I've picked one. There isn't a right answer, a wrong answer. The examiner doesn't have a list of the threats you have to cover. They want you to be selective. So I've suggested that the secondary research highlights a threat, which is this increasing demand for at-home beauty service treatments. Somebody comes round to your home rather than you going to the salon. So, and convenience, perhaps influenced by the pandemic, and maybe price might be the reason for this. Perhaps the at-home service is a cheaper price per treatment. Who knows? But I've then highlighted in yellow the evidence. So Shine Beauty currently relies solely on physical salons, the 4 salons in Cheshire, rather than using multiple distribution channels. So it could be that this shift from going to salons to having the salon come to you, that could be a significant change, couldn't it? And that might pose a threat to our objective of increasing salon sales. Why is that important? Well, the marketing message, our campaign needs to emphasize, needs to tackle that threat and emphasize the benefits, the features and benefits of actually coming to the salon. So I've suggested the campaign might emphasize the expertise. You can trust the Shine Beauty technicians. It's safe. It's regulated. Yeah, all that kind of stuff. That might be to give the potential customer some reassurance. So you don't have to go through the entire marketing campaign, but just make a little link with a sentence to say, here's what the effect of this threat might be for our campaign. Here's how we're going to tackle it. And I reckon that's enough. One well-developed strength, one well-developed weakness, one well-developed opportunity, one well-developed threat. Then you've applied, haven't you, an analytical model to the research. It's time to move on, I think, to your second model. Now, oh, hang on, some questions coming in here. Let's deal with this one whilst we're dealing with our SWOT analysis. So Learn Maths with K says, can the threat Shine Beauty relies on the physical salon location also be in the marketing mix as the place? Absolutely. So this is why when we look at the detailed marketing mix, when we look at place, our chosen marketing mix is probably going to emphasize the salon experience. Yeah. But it could be, it's possible that we might even suggest this will be a creative idea for the campaign, that we might do a pop-up salon, let's say at the Trafford Centre, as an option to test this idea that it's not just in salon that we can run an event. You could do a pop-up event, couldn't you? Who knows? The kind of thing they do on The Apprentice. So definitely the location of where the salon services are provided is all about place as part of the effective marketing mix. Superb question. So over to you now, PESTLE. Hopefully you know what PESTLE stands for. If you didn't, you do now because it's on the screen. I'm sure you do. So what do you think? Whilst I have a sip of coffee, over to you. Could you give me any examples? I'll look in the live chat, maybe stick 1 or 2 on the screen. Any examples of PESTLE that we might be able to apply to Shine Beauty? And don't forget, this is going to be in part A, isn't it? It's a research pack. You can bring in your extra research if you wish. So Aaron's asking, can you use your own research? Absolutely you can. You don't just have to use the research in the pack. You've got a little bit of time in the evening if you wish to, but you don't have to. Everything you need is in the research pack, really, in terms of being able to answer the question. What do you think? Has anyone got any ideas for any element of PESTLE that you might be able to develop for Shine Beauty? I'll give you a few seconds. I've had a go, but as always in these cases, your suggestions are much better. There is a link to the case study if you're watching this on demand, so you can come back. Leonie's in there with a fantastic one. Read my mind. Legal. Beauty salons are regulated in several ways. Fantastic. Exactly that. That's why it was in the case study. So you've got regulations over health and safety and customer information and consumer protection. All kinds of regulations. No doubt at all about it. Kai has gone for economic conditions, yeah, and you've gone for the disposable income and consumer confidence factor. I've also gone with that one. In fact, I've had a go at developing that. Love it. What have we got here? Mohammed's gone for technological factors. Perhaps this idea of developing online services, all that kind of stuff. Olivia's gone with the political, yeah. Minimum wage legislation, laws, tax laws, employment laws, to your right. Aaron's also gone for the economic downturn. Interesting spelling of economic, but I'll take it. as customer footfall and demand has weakened during the recent comic slowdown, also economic slowdown. Aaron, you've got the right point. Your typing is as fast as mine as well. Love it. The honoured one has gone for a social. I think we've almost got the lot, haven't we? Showing growing demand for pampering, luxury beauty treatments. Interestingly, increasingly, men are looking for pampering and luxury beauty treatments. Love it. And Kai, perfect. Great stuff. Environmental. We spotted yesterday, the case tells us that beauty salons are large users of water and energy. Therefore, they're going to have issues around, hopefully, being able to manage that sustainably and also manage their how they dispose of, for example, disposing of medical and other equipment used in the beauty treatments, all that kind of stuff. All has to be done in a very sustainable, hopefully safe way. Love it. So you've got the idea. Here's what I went with, and then I'll come back to showing you how you might develop this if you decided to use PESTLE. Olivia's gone for the carbon footprint. Yeah, I love it. Of how they deliver their services. Love it. This is perfect. Students generally have no difficulty spotting PESTLE in the case study. The key is not to spend too long writing about it. I went with, well, the ones you went with there. So I picked the economic downturn, the social trend, the growing demand for men for pampering. Emerging treatments. I went for the emerging treatments like cryotherapy, innovative treatments, health and safety we've mentioned already, sustainability, great stuff. Now, what's the danger with PESTLE? Here's the issue. PESTLE analysis is the external influences impacting the business. Opportunities and threats are the external influences impacting the business. The danger with PESTLE is that you end up writing and just repeating all the points that you've developed for your SWOT analysis, which in itself is okay, but the danger is you spend forever writing half a page on political, half a page on economic, half a page on social, and you're wasting time. Why is that a danger? You haven't got a lot of time and you need the time for your marketing mix. So if you decide to use PESTLE, most students do, but you don't have to. There is an alternative. If you decide to, I think the most important thing is to be selective and say to the examiner that PESTLE can be applied in full to the business. However, you've maybe picked out the 3 most important aspects of PESTLE for the business and then develop those fully. So don't feel that you have to develop every single letter of PESTLE, half a page each. It's not worth it for the 10 marks. You can if you want, if you're an incredibly quick typist, but I think you need more time for the marketing mix. So one approach, it's not the only approach, I think, is to be selective and say, we think the most significant parts of PESTLE are. And then, for example, that would then give me a bit more time to develop maybe my economic point. So, I mean, Arnoms is saying, how much time do we use for the marketing mix? Well, it's 70 marks for a 2-hour exam. So let's say 35 for an hour. So basically 2 minutes a mark. Well, my marketing mix needs 35 to 40 minutes, doesn't it? Whereas my 2 models, SWOT, PESTLE, product lifecycle, 2 of those, that's only 10 marks. It's only 20 minutes. So you can see how we don't want to be spending forever writing about PESTLE when there's a better option, I think. But anyway, so all I'm suggesting is you don't have to work your way through the detail of every letter in PESTLE. Do something like this. Say, look, here's the most important. So I've gone with the economic downturn, and it's exactly the same as SWOT. What's the evidence? How does it apply to the business? And what's the effect on our marketing campaign? So I've gone with the economic downturn reducing customer disposable incomes. The research indicates rising utility charges and the economic downturn are reducing disposable incomes. Obviously, they're also increasing salon costs. That might limit what customers can feel they can spend on beauty treatments. 61% in the primary research, so linking to the primary research, said they can't afford beauty treatments. Yeah. Okay. Right. We've identified a factor, economic. We've used the research. So what? Well, it says this directly affects our marketing mix, particularly price. If disposable incomes are lower, that may mean we're not able to maybe use price skimming tactics. Price skimming, a strategy for creaming off the customers prepared to pay high prices for new products. It could be that we really have to focus on low introductory prices, particularly for these trial treatments at salon events, to add some value, to try and encourage people to come and try them. And then being patient and maybe trying to get customers to pay a little bit more for those treatments later on. So it's just saying we're going to have to take account of this because of this economic factor. And I just think by being selected that way, I'd maybe do it economic, maybe a social, maybe a legal. It's up to you. You don't have. I don't think you have to do them all to apply the model in the way that the examiner is hoping you will. So key points from PESTLE: be careful. Don't just simply copy out what you wrote for your SWOT. That's cheating, and it's not really applying PESTLE properly. Make sure you do as with your SWOT. Make sure you use the research. That's the most important thing, and then make sure that you explain and justify an effect, an implication for your marketing mix and your marketing campaign. Now, what we've done 2 situation analysis tools there, haven't we? We've done SWOT, we've done PESTLE. Could there be a better alternative, in particular to PESTLE? I think there could, and this is why increasingly students are deciding to go with the product lifecycle. Now, Aaron's making a good point. Don't do 3. There's no need to do 3 tools. You don't have time, and there's only 10 marks, isn't there? Waste of time. Pick 2. Most students are still they're all doing SWOT. And I would say 95% from what I hear from chatting to some examiners last month, 95% are still using PESTLE. But there's a small number of students who are ditching PESTLE and going to product lifecycle. And I think it's a smart move, in particular, if you do it well and if it gives you a bit more time for the marketing mix. So, and Aaron's suggesting, by the way, Aaron's not the only person in the live chat. We've got over 100 people, but he's making some great points in the live chat. I'll just stick that on the screen. 1 or 2 paragraphs on the product lifecycle is quicker and easier. Shall we have a look why that might be the case? It's your call, your decision. Well, firstly, let's just do a quick bit of revision on life cycle. Over to you in the live chat. What's the first stage of the product life cycle, please? Type it into the live chat. I know quite a few people haven't revised this model. Julian, I'll come back to my recommendation in about 10 minutes' time, if that's okay. What is the first stage of the product life cycle? Introduction, yeah, development. Next, what's next? Let's see who's first. Yeah, introduction, correct. What comes after introduction? I think Plusy was first. Harry was pretty soon afterwards. Growth. What comes after growth? Leonie, you were pretty quick as well. Yeah, maturity. Harry was first there. Maturity. And lastly, what's last? Let's see who's first. I think it was Aaron. It is decline. But of course, how can you avoid the decline stage? What is it that you can use to avoid the decline stage in the product life cycle? This is instant. This is a super quick revision. This, product extensions. Leonie's first in there with extension strategies. So the basic idea of the product life cycle, and you can apply product life cycle to an individual product, but also it's a model that can be applied to an industry as well and to a market. And that's why I think it's a relevant situation analysis tool. You can use any tool you like. You use Porter's 5 Forces, you could use AIDA, you could use all kinds of stuff. But the product life cycle is a really good one to use for Unit 2 because you can apply it to an industry as well as to the individual products of a business. Now, don't worry, we haven't, we're not going to spend forever on this, but you might be saying, well, Jim, how do I find out what evidence there is in the case study for the product lifecycle? I can see SWOT, it's easy. I can see PESTLE, it's written for PESTLE. What about the product lifecycle? Well, just look out for the likely features of the different stages. For example, if it's a really large market, that means it's not in the introduction phase, is it? So that rules out the introduction phase. How fast is it growing? If it's growing at, say, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 15, 20%, if it's growing fast, that suggests that the market is in the growth phase, the overall market. Other evidence would be if there are lots of new businesses coming into the market, if there's loads of product innovation. That's all evidence of a market, a product that is in the growth phase. However, if the market is growing steady but slow, that suggests that it's in the maturity phase. And it could be that there's some established market leaders, or maybe price is the most important means of competition. That's more evidence of the maturity phase. And if it's in the decline phase, well, you know, sales are falling, little innovation, businesses leaving the market. So it's just the case that you can usually, there's always be something in there that helps you pick the market stage, either for the market as a whole, or you might say, well, some segments are actually in the growth phase, whereas the overall market is mature. That's all we're doing with the product life cycle. There's some questions coming through. Yeah, so Kai's saying, what might the stage mean for the marketing campaign? Well, shall we have a look? Shall we have a look? Let's do it. So that's all we're looking for. We're just looking for a little bit of evidence for the product life cycle. So if you decide to do it, you don't have to. You might stick with PESTLE. I'd always do SWOT, to be honest with you. But if you decide to do PESTLE, you don't need to do product life cycle. If you decide I'd rather use a different model and gain myself a bit of time for my marketing mix, rather than spending 3 pages writing about PESTLE, this is not a bad option. Because as soon as you've done a really good SWOT, a decent product life cycle gets you right at the mark scheme, doesn't it? So how do we do it? Well, the first thing we do is we look for the research evidence. So I would just have 2 paragraphs. My first paragraph would say, here's the evidence of the product life cycle, just in the same way that we've drawn evidence for our SWOT and our PESTLE. So here's my effort. It's probably a little bit long. But what do you think? So I said the secondary research, part A, suggests the overall beauty salon market is in the maturity phase. Why? Because the market is growing, but only slowly, 1.5% per year currently, and in the next few years. Other evidence, there are thousands, 16,000, aren't there? Thousands of established salons, and competition is largely based on where they are and price. Okay? So I think I've applied the research to the product life cycle. I said, overall, it looks like it's the mature phase. However, there is some evidence that some segments are not in the maturity phase, but in the growth phase. Which ones? Well, for example, innovative treatments such as cryotherapy and beauty services for men and at-home services. So I've just picked out 2 or 3 bits of evidence that think, well, actually, they're growing a bit faster maybe than the market as a whole. So that suggests that they're in the growth phase. So traditional treatments like waxing, manicures are in the maturity phase. New advanced treatments, new segments in the growth phase. So that's the evidence. Yeah, that's all we need. That's all we need. Now, so what? Well, I would just have a subheading that says implications. Okay. Well, for the mature segments, the traditional products, waxing, hair removal, as you can see, I've had successful treatments on that. The focus on the marketing mix is going to be price and promotions to try to retain loyal users and attract new users through salon events. For treatments in the growth phase, we might just need to change our marketing mix and our campaign very slightly, maybe focus more around what I'm calling education, building trust, because we're trying to sell to new customers, but we're also trying to sell products that our customers aren't currently buying. But if we can do it well, it should be good news for our aims and objectives, because sales of these new treatments are growing faster than the market as a whole. So if we can do that, that's going to be good news. So I think that applies the product life cycle to my case study and justifies using that marketing mix. I don't use conditioner, by the way. I used to use a shampoo called Wash and Go. Now I just use a shampoo called Go. So there we go. That's an example of how to use the product life cycle. So what do you think? Interested to hear your thoughts on that as an alternative possibly to PESTLE, all you need to do for product lifecycle is just look at the evidence in part A, and you'll know that by the time you go into the exam, because you've had part A to think about it. What's the market size? Is it growing? Is there any evidence that it's all in the growth phase? Is it all mature? Is it in decline? There's your evidence. And then just think about, well, what's the implication of that? Because the evidence is there. All we need to write about is the implication for our marketing mix. So Casey's saying, which section would you find the information for the product life cycle? Well, it's in part A, isn't it? Because there's definitely going to be something in there about the market growth and possibly the market size and possibly some other information about how businesses compete in the market, how much innovation there is. So that's the kind of evidence that you need for product life cycle. And as I say, you can apply the product life cycle market not just to the products of the business, but to the market as a whole and to the segments. Thereafter, you're just using the research data to answer your question. Okay, there's a question coming in. Is it quicker to do the product life cycle? Yes, I think it is. I think we're looking at 2 paragraphs, aren't we? 2 paragraphs rather than, say, 2 sides writing about the PESTLE analysis. So I think, yes, I think it is quicker. That would be my guess. Right. Oh, Morgan's got a question. Let's deal with this one before we just summarize AF4. Would you say change the product life cycle if your teacher hasn't taught it? It's up to you. I think either PESTLE is still going to be fine, product life cycle is going to be fine. The main point, as we'll come on to, is don't spend too long on it. Apply it selectively. Use the research, apply it to the business, and move on. The main point is there's only 10 marks. I would practice using the product life cycle. You can always change your mind. You can always do both if you want, but I'm not sure you've got time. Aaron's asking, what is my favorite analysis tool to use? Well, in Unit 2, I'd start with SWOT and I would do product life cycle. But that's because I like the product life cycle as a model and I know it saves time. But the most important thing is don't do 3 models. Just do 2. You don't have time and you don't need to do 3. So don't waste your time. Your time's better spent on the marketing mix. Okay. Eamon's asking, are you going to do a video on the 7 Ps? Well, that's what we're doing next, isn't it? Our next session is going through the 7 Ps. Another question coming in. If we use PESTLE, do we have to write about all 6? I don't think you do. I think if you start by saying the whole PESTLE model applies to the business, but I think the 3 or 4 most important parts of it are as follows, and then develop those. I think that's a better way of applying the model rather than feeling as though you have to force every letter of the model through. I'm not sure there's any requirement. It doesn't say in the mark scheme that you have to apply every part of the model, as long as you're saying here are the most important parts. And yes, we are doing some live streams for Unit 3. Okay, so just to summarize then on AF4, we've spent half an hour on this. 10 marks. There's only 10 marks. There's 20 marks for the marketing mix. This is the last pass of your first activity, activity 1. Don't overdo it. You need time to do the marketing mix in detail. So there are only 10 marks. Therefore, don't do 3 tools. Do 2 tools. Most students do SWOT. Most do PESTLE, an increasing number SWOT PESTLE for product lifecycle. Your choice. However you do it, make sure you link your models to the research and then justify that research and justify your marketing campaign by linking the 2. So always make a link back to aims and objectives and to your chosen campaign. And don't just say the research shows. Explicitly mention which part of the research shows what you're looking for, yeah? Don't just say the research pack shows that. Which part, which evidence? Explicitly reference the market research in either part A or the information you're given in part B. Really, really important. Good. I think we're just about done there. I've got a couple of minutes if there's any more questions on AF4 before we take a well-deserved break. That's you, not me. And we're back on Friday looking at the 20 marketing mix. If you found this session useful, as always, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget, I'm around on the comments. All of these sessions are recorded. So if there are any questions you've got, if you want to, for example, if you want to put in a suggested marketing aim and objective for Shine Beauty, anything like that, I'm happy to have a look at the comments as we go and reply to them. Past papers, question from Jamie. Past papers, the ones, yeah, they are locked on Pearson. Yeah, well, I mean, past papers, I can't supply them directly. However, we do have lots of due practice exam papers, Charming Chocolate, Muttley, this one. So I'll make sure we link to those on the YouTube channel. That's more than enough to be have a go at. What's Roman saying here? Let's get this on. You mentioned, you don't have to say sir, by the way. You mentioned earlier that the information for strength is found in part B. Is there any chance that the information could be found in part A and vice versa? No chance. Not a chance. Part B is the gold dust, where you find out about the business, as we discovered yesterday when we set our aims and objectives and the options. So part A is all about setting the scene, telling you about the market, opportunities and threats. Part B is where you find out about the business, and there's no chance that they will reverse that. Aaron's saying, I really like your papers. They are similar. Well, yeah, they are designed to be similar. But they're not. We're not trying to predict what's going to come up. Can we still achieve full marks if we only do PESTLE and SWOT all day long? Yeah, absolutely, all day long. You need two models. Your choice as to which one. Let's have a look. All right, it's a question from Axjolt. Part B. What do we do with the two questions at the end? Well, it's options, isn't it? You're given two options. So the business, part B tells you what the business is, what its aims are, and then they're considering two options. You just need to choose one of those options, and then that becomes the focus for your aims and objectives, your marketing mix, and your marketing campaign. So just choose one. Casey, hopefully that's how you pronounce it. What would be the best way to revise outside of live streams? Well, I would quickly revise the Billy basics of the specification. So make sure you understand what the 7 Ps are. Really important. Make sure you've been through strengths and SWOT analysis, PESTLE, product lifecycle. After that, it's just thinking about aims and objectives, practicing them. That's what it's all about. Yeah, someone's suggesting I need some beauty services to remove the bald shine off my head. I certainly do. I certainly do. Anyway, we've got another question on AF4 coming in. When doing the justification, do we only have to mention information that could be useful? Oh, do we have to mention information that could have been useful if it was included? No, I wouldn't. I think that's in AF3. So here's where AF3 is where you say it would have been helpful to have A or B to help inform our aims and objectives and marketing campaign. I think justification is just using the research that you've got. Josh is saying, why shouldn't we do all three? PESTLE, SWOT and product lifecycle. Well, there's nothing to stop you, but chances are you're going to be wasting time that could be better used developing fully in particular, your extended marketing mix, AF5, 20 marks, and also adding more detail to your marketing campaign. So if you do all three for 10 marks, you're either a phenomenally quick typer or you're not doing either of them justice. So I would just do 2, but there's nothing to stop you from doing 3. Harry's saying for the product lifecycle, would need to say potential extension activities. Yeah, well, you could do, couldn't you? It could be that the business you've identified is in the maturity phase, and you say, well, to continue the maturity phase and to avoid decline, our marketing campaign may involve X, Y, Z. I mean, price promotions and repackaging and that kind of stuff is a classic extension strategy. So yeah, if you believe that there's a need to extend the life cycle, make a link between that and some element of your marketing campaign. That's what it's all about. There we go. All good. Mr. GTU. Don't tell Jeff that. Will you be going live for a quick recall a day or two before the exam? Yeah, we're doing a session on Monday night, aren't we? Which I think is 48 hours before part A. Right, I think we're done. Awesome questions. If there are any more, please post them into the comments in the recording for these live chat. And look, I'm away for a day tomorrow, but I'm back on Friday. We're going to do a similar session diving into the extended marketing mix. If you've not already done so, do download the Shine Beauty case study. A link is in the description. Have a good look through that, have a practice with it, and have a think about the marketing mix that you might choose for your chosen option. There are 2 options for you to choose from. And then we'll be in good shape, won't we, to have a look about how you can maximize the most important assessment focus 5, the extended marketing mix. That's the subject for the next session. But for now, many thanks for everyone who's joined me live. See you next time.